Today on Think Smart with TMFG, Mike and I are going to be discussing the pros and cons of renovations.
I'm getting tired of renovations. Are you, Rob?
I am very tired of renovations.
I feel like I do the financial advisor thing, but half of my life is involved in doing construction and rental work.
So both of us have some experience in this regard. And, you know, as many of you know, I did a cottage rebuild a couple of years ago and went through some of the trials and tribulations of that. We're constantly doing some upgrades at home, whether it's a bathroom or something. We've learned a few things. Mike, you're currently undertaking renovating a new house that you purchased. Well, an old house that you purchased.
And yeah, basically gutted and renovating the whole house. And reason why this is pertinent to our clients is we get asked the question many times about doing renovations, because a lot of our clients, if they live in a house for a long time, they're going to have to do renovations. And they always give us the cost and say how much money they're going to need. Rarely are they right in how much money they're going to need. And they talk about the time they need, and rarely are they right about the time they need. So we can bring some experience to all the clients who are about to partake in the idea of doing a renovation. And I don't think it's a bad idea. I think it's a great idea because you do get what you want at the end of the day. You really do have something you're devoted to, you love, you're passionate about. So I think it's well worth it, but just to go in expecting what you're going to deal with.
So one of the rules is that things will take twice as long as you projected, that they'll cost twice as much as you projected, and certainly will involve more stress than you expected. We're moving our office to a new location, and we had thought we had a number that it was going to cost. It's going to cost double that number. We had a time, we actually thought we would be in by the beginning of November of this year.
This podcast was actually supposed to be from our new podcast room.
We won't be in probably complete until February at best.
Yep.
So a good example of twice as long and twice as much. What are some of the other things, Mike, that people don't necessarily consider?
I think, it's not the things that you know about. It's the things you don't know about when you go to do a renovation. It was funny. I was just talking about doing a bathroom, and you put in a new bathtub, right? And you get a nice clawfoot bathtub, whatever. But you go to fill your bathtub, and all of a sudden you're out of hot water. And you go down, you say, well, it doesn't work. You call your plumber, says, well, your hot water tank is small because it was only a small bathtub before. Now you use up all your hot water. So you spend $2,000 here, then a hot water tank will cost you $3,000 or $4,000 on top of that. But there's all these things you don't think about when you're making changes. You know, you may go and do something like, let's add a car charger into the house. It seems like a simple thing. But then they look at the amp service to your house and go, well, it's not just a car charger. That's, $2,000. But you now need a new panel and a new service in your house because you need a 200 amp service to handle that. And then it all of a sudden goes from a $2,000 cost to a $6,000 cost to do these things. And they're all over the place when you start to do changes. That's just part of the life of making changes.
One example was we're walking through our new office, and we realized that one of the walls that was supposed to be there was not there. Turns out it wasn't in the initial plan. Yep. There was a line on the initial plan that looked like it was a wall, but it wasn't really a wall. We all assumed that the wall was there as part of the initial quote. It wasn't. Cost for that a little wall and a door, $10,000.
And he told us that before. He said, don't make changes, right? He warned us ahead of time because changes are expensive and extras quickly run up your bill. So as soon as you start to make those changes, that adds extra. And what we did is when we put that wall in, you think it's just a wall between two rooms, but now you need new electrical because now you need outlets on both sides of the rooms. You need sprinkler systems because it's an office, so you need a sprinkler system for each one. The HVAC system has to provide ventilation to each separate office. You need to insulate between the two offices because now the one person on the wall will hear the other person on the wall. You need two doors, different entrances to go into this. So when we went in, it was a wall.
Right.
All of a sudden, it's a $20,000.
A wall and a door.
Yeah, it's
right.
$20,000 to
$5,000, but it's now double. It's $10,000.
Yep.
Some other things that you don't expect, material delays. You know, we're so used to being able to go on Amazon and say, I need this or I need that, and it arrives literally the next day, sometimes the same day. That doesn't work in the building trade.
No, I ordered a shower pan, And I go on Amazon, it won't even tell me when it's supposed to be delivered. So now I got to unorder and try to find somewhere to get these things. So, some things can go a month or 2 months, but the problem is all your trades are waiting for this to come in before they can do anything.
Right.
And everything is in an order. So it's a pecking order. So if you don't have your shower faucets, you can't build your shower, you can't do all this other stuff because you want things to fit. And when you try doing things without the actual items there, I find there's always mistakes. So
workers not available. So you set up a schedule. These guys are supposed to arrive this week. These guys are supposed to arrive this week. But then the first guys ended up being a week late. So the whole thing backs up. And now everyone is being inconvenienced, all the trades, and they're not sitting at home waiting to do your job. They've got other jobs they're working on. Yeah. So you always wonder why, well, I went in today, there was no one there.
Yeah.
Well, that's probably because everything got delayed by a week or 2 weeks a month ago, and that's backed up the whole process.
Yeah. And then by the time the people that were ready to do it next week are ready, next week they're booked off, so they can't do it that week. So, we've been lucky we haven't had any strikes too. Usually when you're dealing through the whole building series, if you haven't everything done from masonry to electricians to plumbers, you're going to have one of those trades on strike, and that's going to hold up everything because they're all reliant on each other.
Talking about strikes, we've seen a couple of things. We've seen a lot of the dock workers been on strike. Yep. So anything you're bringing in from outside of the country isn't going to arrive on time. Now we've got Canada Post on strike.
Yeah.
Anything that was coming through the mail system or through Canada Post isn't going to arrive on time.
Yeah, and while we're doing this, we're talking about government, let's talk about permits. Because we're having things done, I'm saying they're wonderful departments. They do a wonderful job, but sometimes it can take a long time.
We've been waiting on a building permit now for about 4 months.
Yeah.
Still not there. And this is in an existing building, 5,000 square feet.
Yeah.
We're just redoing the space. There's no walls, there's no outside walls. There's no outside water, outside heat. Any of that's already in the building.
Then beyond permits, now you need inspections. Everything has to be inspected. So that's a whole different level where you have government involvement to clear this stuff.
What are some of the advantages and disadvantages at the same time? So you're taking over an old place.
Yeah, well, I'm stripping out everything because the problem that you start to get into is once you upgrade one piece of your home, the rest of it looks outdated. And it's this snowball effect where people think, I'm just going to go and update one bathroom. And then you look at it, you have a nice bathroom and everything around it looks dated. You want everything to look at the same level. You don't want your house to be disjointed. And so once you start that renovation process, it usually starts the ball rolling to a whole lot of renovations. So what you may think will be let's say, $20,000 or $30,000 renovation will work itself up to be $100,000 relatively quickly. That's what I've found in my experience. I'm sure you found the same thing.
We had an interesting thing. We had a bathroom, and the actual shower stall needed replacing. So we need new tiling.
Yeah.
But of course, that led then, a new shower door, a new shower head.
Toilets are cheap. You might as well get new toilets.
Then we started looking around. We're going to paint the thing. Okay, we're going to paint the whole thing. Well, shouldn't we replace the countertops? And at a certain point, I said, no, we're over budget. We can't do the countertops.
Yep.
When I go into that bathroom now, everything looks beautiful except what?
The countertop.
Except the countertops.
Yep.
Why did I get so cheap at the end?
Yeah.
And now we're going to have to bring the tradespeople back later next year at some point.
Make a mess of your house again and go through that.
And we'll be without our bathroom for another, 3 weeks a month to replace the countertops.
Appliances you go through. The problem with appliances is they always change. And when one goes, it almost feels like you should just replace them all.
Right.
Like you can't get when your dryer goes, you're not just going to buy a dryer. You have to buy a washer and a dryer because you don't want them not to match. And if you buy the other, you can buy one and then hope it's still there. But a year later, you won't be able to get a matching washer for the dryer you bought. So you got to buy them in unison. Again, even with your kitchen, when you're doing that, when one thing goes, you like to have your appliances somewhat match. And, nowadays we all stick to stainless steel because we're afraid of what could happen with any other color.
So renovations, client comes to you, says, Mike, we want to do some renovations. It's going to cost about $50,000, $100,000. What do you tell them?
Yeah, you budget in double that.
And how long? We think we can get this done in 3 months.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot longer, particularly when people were counting on it to move into places too, because a lot of people do these renovations and say, I'm going to be in my house in 2 months. It's not 2 months. They have to go and make it to it's going to be 4 to 5 to 6 months before they're actually in there.
So you're right now not in a house, you're renting.
Yeah.
When do you think you'll move into your house?
I thought I'd be in January or probably March by the time I'm in.
Okay. That brings us to the end of another week. This is Rob and Mike with Think Smart from the McClelland Financial Group of Assante Capital Management.